Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a really fascinating look at the global cell culture market. We'll see where it stands now in 2025 and, crucially, where it seems to be heading.
Exactly. We've got this detailed market research report, just packed with data.
Right. And our plan is to sort of pull out the key insights for you listening. The market size, the growth trends, who the big players are, and how things look regionally around the world.
Yeah, and just briefly, cell culture, it's basically growing cells outside their natural environment, in the lab.
Ah.
We won't get lost in the technical weeds today, but understanding this market, well, it gives us a great window into the future of medicine.
Especially things like biopharmaceuticals, right? Those complex drugs from living sources.
Precisely, and biological research in general, it's all tied together.
Okay, so let's jump right in with the big numbers. For 2025, the global market size is estimated at, what was it? USD 1,702.6 million.
That's it, $17.5 billion, roughly.
But here's the really eye-opening part. The projection for 2033 is USD 401.05 million.
Yeah, getting close to 42 billion. Well, it's a huge jump.
It works out to a compound annual growth rate, a CAGR, of 11.50% between 2025 and 2033. That's fast growth year on year.
It really is significant. It underscores just how vital cell culture is becoming across so many scientific and medical fields. We're talking real-world impact on developing cutting-edge treatments.
Okay, so globally, that 11.5% average annual growth, what's the main thing pushing that number so high?
The report really points to one major factor,
Mm-hmm.
the increasing demand for those biopharmaceuticals we mentioned.
Okay.
These are complex drugs, often proteins or antibodies, made using living cells. So as we develop more of these advanced treatments, the need for the underlying cell culture tech just skyrockets.
Makes perfect sense. So let's break it down regionally. The report slices the market up, and North America looks like the current leader.
It is, yeah. Holding over 40% of the global market share right now.
Yeah.
In 2025, that's about USD 6,475.96 million.
Okay, over 6.4 billion.
Yep.
And its growth rate.
Projected at a 9.9% CAGR through to 2033. Still very strong growth, even from a large base.
And I assume the U.S. is the main driver within North America.
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
The U.S. market alone is pegged at about USD 500 and 109.53 million for 2025. That's the lion's share.
Wow.
And its CAGR is projected at 9.7%. The report specifically calls out advances in regenerative medicine as a key factor there.
Regenerative medicine, like stem cell therapies and tissue engineering?
Exactly. Fields focused on repairing or replacing damaged tissues and organs. They rely heavily on sophisticated cell culture techniques. As breakthroughs happen there, demand just keeps climbing.
Got it. What about Canada and Mexico? Are they significant contributors too?
They are. Canada's market is estimated at USD 777.12 million in 2025, with actually a slightly higher CAGR than the U.S. at 10.7%.
Interesting.
That's linked again to that strong demand for biopharmaceuticals.
Mm-hmm.
Mexico's market is smaller, around USD 589.31 million in 2025, but it's also growing fast at 10.4% CAGR.
So summing up North America, why the dominance? Is it just R&D spending?
Well, that's a big part of it, especially in the U.S. But it's also the high demand for biopharma, this growing focus on sort of customized or personalized medicine.
Right.
And those big strides in regenerative medicine. Plus, a generally well-established healthcare infrastructure that can actually adopt these new therapies.
Okay, clear picture there. Let's hop across the Atlantic. Europe is number 2.
That's right. Europe holds over 30% of the global market. The estimate for 2025 is USD 575.75 million.
So around 5 billion, and its growth.
Projected CAGR is 10.5% through 2033. So again, really solid growth.
Can you give us a feel for some of the key countries within Europe? Is it evenly spread?
Not quite evenly, but several big players. Germany is actually the largest in Europe, estimated at just over USD 1 billion in 2025, with a 10.7% CAGR.
Okay.
The UK is also significant, around USD 852 million, and growing slightly faster at 11.3% CAGR.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have France, roughly USD 467 million, 9.7% CAGR. Italy's around USD 436 million, 9.9% CAGR. And Russia's quite large too, estimated near USD 787 million, though with a slightly lower CAGR of 9.5%.
And some smaller but still growing markets too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Places like Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, even Luxembourg, they all have decent markets relative to their size, and CAGR is typically in the 10-11% range.
It's quite a diverse landscape. What are the common threads driving Europe's strong position overall?
Well, much like North America, Europe has a really powerful pharmaceutical and biotech industry base. There's strong demand for biologics, significant interest in regenerative medicine.
Mm-hmm.
The focus on personalized treatments is growing there too, and there's generally good government support and funding for research in these areas.
Yeah.
The prevalence of chronic diseases also plays a role, driving the need for new therapeutic approaches.
Okay, now let's pivot to the region that seems to be generating the most excitement in terms of pure growth speed, Asia Pacific, APAC.
Absolutely. This is where the numbers get really eye-catching in terms of rate of change. So APAC's current market share is around 23%, maybe a bit less.
Okay.
The 2025 market size is estimated at USD 4,200.62 million, so just over 4.2 billion.
Right.
But the projected CAGR from 2025 to 2033 is 14.3%. That's the highest globally by a fair margin.
14.3%. That's significantly faster than North America or Europe. Which countries are really powering that surge?
China is a huge factor. Its 2025 market is estimated at over USD 1.76 billion, with a 13.8% CAGR.
Mm-hmm.
India is also growing incredibly fast. Its CAGR is projected at 16.2%, though from a smaller base of about USD 420 million in 2025.
To 16%, wow.
Yeah, Japan remains a very important market, around USD 580 million, growing at 12.8%. South Korea is substantial too, over $500 million, 13.4% growth. Then you have Australia, Singapore, Taiwan, Southeast Asia as a block, all showing TGRs in the 13 to 15% range.
It's really across the board in APAC then. What's the secret sauce there? Why such rapid growth?
It's a combination of things, really. You've got rapidly increasing demand for biologics as healthcare access improves. There's a huge amount of investment going into biotech research and infrastructure build-out.
Okay.
Plus, large populations with growing healthcare needs, a focus on drug discovery for diseases prevalent in the region, and specific pushes in areas like regenerative medicine and vaccine development. Sort of a perfect storm for growth in this sector.
Fascinating. Okay, let's touch on the other regions. South America, smaller share, but what's the story there?
South America accounts for just over 5% of the global market. The 2025 estimate is USD 665.1 million.
So under a billion, but how's the growth?
Pretty strong, actually. Projected CAGR is 12.2% between 2025 and 2033. So growing faster than North America or Europe, just not as fast as APAC.
And who are the leaders in South America? Brazil?
Yes, Brazil is the largest by far, around USD 285 million in 2025, growing at 12.8%. Argentina is next, about USD 112 million, but with a slightly higher CAGR of 13.1%. Then you have countries like Colombia, Peru, Chile, all showing solid growth, around the 12% mark as well.
And the drivers there? Similar themes.
Pretty similar. Increasing demand for biologics, vaccines, regenerative therapies. There's also, unfortunately, a rising frequency of chronic diseases driving needs, and a general push across the continent to improve healthcare systems and access. Brazil and Argentina have developing pharma biotech sectors that are key contributors.
Okay. What about the Middle East? Where does it fit in?
The Middle East is smaller still, around 2% of the global market share. The 2025 estimate is USD 700.1 million, so slightly larger than South America in absolute terms right now.
And its growth trajectory.
Also quite strong, a projected CAGR of 12.8% through 2033. So on par with Brazil's growth rate, for instance.
Which countries are most active there? Saudi Arabia, UAE?
Exactly. Saudi Arabia is the largest, estimated at USD 246 million in 2025, growing at 13.1%. The UAE is next, around USD 144 million, growing even slightly faster at 13.3%. Turkey, Qatar, Egypt also contribute, all showing CAGRs north of 12%.
And the story behind that growth? Investment.
Yeah, largely. Significant investments in healthcare infrastructure, a push towards developing local biotech capabilities, and again, rising demand for advanced therapies like biologics and regenerative medicine. Countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE are really making strategic investments in medical research and innovation.
Right. And finally, Africa, smallest market share currently.
Yes, around 1% of the global total, estimated at USD 385 million for 2025.
But still growing.
Definitely. The projected CAGR is 11.8% from 2025 to 2033. So, again, double-digit growth potential.
Which parts of Africa are seeing the most activity? South Africa.
South Africa is the main market currently, about USD 135 million in 2025, growing at a strong 12.7%. Nigeria is much smaller, around USD 31 million, but also growing well at 12.0%. The rest of Africa category actually makes up the largest chunk combined, indicating growing activity across various nations.
And the drivers in Africa? Healthcare needs?
Primarily, yes. Expanding healthcare requirements because of population growth and disease burden. They're also increasing, though still relatively small, investments in biotech and a focus on upgrading healthcare infrastructure generally. The demand for biologics, vaccines, and potentially cell-based therapies to tackle major health challenges is definitely rising.
That regional breakdown is incredibly helpful, gives a real sense of the global dynamics. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. The report also looks at the market by product type, right? Instruments, media, that sort of thing.
Exactly. It breaks it down into key categories. You've got the instruments, the actual equipment, things like biosafety cabinets, incubators, bioreactors, cryopreservation tanks.
Okay.
Then you have media, the nutrient broth the cells grow in, different types like classical media, serum-free, chemically defined.
Right, the food for the cells.
Precisely. Then sera, often fetal bovine serum, added to media for growth factors. And finally, reagents, a broad category, including things like growth factors, cytokines, other chemicals used in the process.
So, within all those product types, which segment does the report see as holding the biggest slice of the pie?
The report highlights biosafety cabinets as likely dominating the market share.
Why those specifically?
Well, they're just fundamental. You absolutely need them to maintain a sterile environment. Protects the researchers, protects the precious cell cultures from contamination. As all this activity ramps up, more biologics, more vaccines, more cell therapies being developed, and made the demand for reliable biosafety cabinets just keeps growing proportionally.
Makes total sense. Foundational safety equipment. What about the fastest growing segments? Is it different?
Yes, the report points to incubators and cryopreservation systems as the segments likely experiencing the fastest growth rate.
Incubators and cryosystems, why them?
Incubators provide the very specific controlled environment temperature, CO2, humidity that cells need to thrive. As research gets more complex, the precision needed there increases. And cryopreservation, well, that's about long-term storage, freezing cells down while keeping them viable.
Crucial for things like stem cell banking or preserving cell lines for future use.
Exactly that, especially in regenerative medicine and stem cell research. Being able to reliably store cells long-term is critical. As these fields advance, and we're dealing with more complex, maybe patient-specific cell therapies, the need for sophisticated, reliable cryopreservation just explodes.
So it's interesting, the biggest share goes to the essential safety gear, but the fastest growth is in the tools enabling the cutting edge, the advanced growth and storage.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It reflects both the established needs and the direction the field is moving in.
Okay. The report also flags some key overall market drivers and, conversely, some restraints. What are the main engines pushing this whole market forward?
Three big ones stand out. First, simply expanding R&D investments by the pharmaceutical and biotech industries. More money going into drug discovery means more cell culture work. Second, the increasing frequency, sadly, of both chronic diseases like cancer and diabetes and infectious diseases globally. This creates a huge need for research and new treatments, many of which rely on cell culture. And third, increased funding, both government and private, specifically targeting cell-based research projects.
And on the flip side, what's potentially holding the market back from growing even faster? Are there brakes on this?
The main one mentioned is cost. Cell culture equipment, especially the advanced stuff, can be really expensive.
Yeah, I bet.
And the specialized media and reagents, the consumables, they add up too. So the initial outlay and the ongoing operational costs can be a significant barrier, especially for smaller labs, academic institutions, or in developing economies.
That makes sense. Accessibility is always a factor with high tech. What about key trends shaping the industry's future?
Well, one major trend is just continuous technological advancement. We're constantly seeing improvements in the methods making cell culture more efficient, easier to scale up to industrial quantities.
Like better bioreactors.
Exactly. Better bioreactors, more sophisticated monitoring, improved media formulations that give better results, or are serum-free, which simplifies things. And the other big trend we've already touched on is the huge growth opportunity in emerging economies, particularly in APAC, as they invest more heavily in life sciences.
Okay. And finally, the report touches on the competitive landscape. It's not just one giant company, is it?
Oh, no, definitely not. It's a competitive space. You've got some very large, diversified life science corporations and also more specialized players focusing just on cell culture.
Can you name a few of the key players mentioned?
Sure. The report lists names like Thermo Fisher Scientific, Danaher Corporation, Sartorius AG, Merck KGaA, some real giants there.
Right.
Also, Corning Incorporated, Fujifilm Holdings, BD, Eppendorf, Lonza, Getinge.
A lot of familiar names in the lab supply world.
Right. And also companies like Agilent, High Media Laboratories, which is strong in media, Miltenyi Biotech, known for cell separation, and stem cell technologies focusing on, well, stem cell research tools. It's a broad field.
And the report gave a couple of recent examples of activity.
Yeah, just as illustrations. It mentioned Sativa expanding its production capacity for single-use consumables back in 2021 that reflects the trend towards disposable systems for flexibility and avoiding contamination.
Uh-huh.
And it noted Thermo Fisher launching a new product, Gibco CTS detachable Dynabeads, in 2023, specifically aimed at making cell therapy manufacturing more efficient. Just shows there's constant innovation and investment from these players.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this all up. Our deep dive shows a global cell culture market that's already substantial in 2025, around $17.5 billion?
That's right.
And it's poised for really significant growth, projected to more than double by 2033, hitting nearly $42 billion.
Driven primarily by that insatiable demand for biopharmaceuticals and also big advances in areas like regenerative medicine.
And while North America and Europe are the current leaders, the fastest growth by far is happening in the Asia-Pacific region.
Absolutely. Though South America, the Middle East, and Africa are also showing strong double-digit growth potential.
Product-wise, essential gear like biosafety cabinets hold the biggest share, but the fastest expansion is seen in incubators and cryopreservation tech, reflecting the push towards more advanced applications.
And it's all fueled by R&D spending and healthcare needs, though high cost can be a bit of a break. And the market itself is dynamic, with major global players constantly innovating.
It really paints a picture of a crucial, rapidly evolving sector underpinning so much modern biomedical progress.
Precisely. It's a market that directly reflects the exciting science happening in labs and clinics worldwide.
So here's a final thought for you to ponder. With this market expanding so quickly, especially with technologies supporting advanced therapies, how might this accelerate not just the development, but the accessibility of treatments like gene therapies or personalized cancer vaccines in the coming decade? What could that really mean for global health, and what challenges, maybe ethical or logistical, might come alongside that rapid expansion? Definitely something to think about beyond the billions of dollars. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.